Girl, you was a passport sis. It's been a cool experience because with these men, they've put me in positions where I can have these unique experiences I would never have with like a tour guide. I would never have with, even with like a driver. I've gone to people's mama's houses and we eating like my Zanzibar's husband. My Zanzibar husband took me to his family's village, and I was sitting around learning how to cook her secret recipes, and we're eating around the table. Not the table, we were eating around each other like a family. I've had experiences that most people don't have because of this. And people can say, well, why don't you get a tour guide? I have yet to find a tour guide that is going to say, okay, we're going to spend the whole day together and that's going to be it. Usually tour guides are like, you got 3-4 hours, maybe 6 hours, and that's it.
That's amazing.
Right.
I do think, because that genuine connection, bond, friendship, whatever we want to call that.
And I'm still friends with all of them to this day.
All of the Mr. Karinas, Mr. Worldwide.
Right. People ask me, are you really married? Are you like into like a poly relationship? And I'm like, And I do play into it sometimes. Because sometimes, depending on my mood, I might say, yeah, I am. And then I divorce them when I get on a plane. So it just depends on how I'm feeling. But I think it became an opportunity for a bigger conversation with these international husbands. Because number one, the first thing people assumed is they're only marrying you or they're only like dating you because they want citizenship. Not once has anyone even asked me to visit the States. And I think that's also like an American thing where I love having my passport, my blue passport. I understand the privilege behind it, but we have to understand that our great United States of America is not the great sis she was back in the days when our grandparents were, moving there and like wanted a better life for themselves and all of that good stuff. And I mean, still a great country, of course. I would never give up my blue passport. Let me say that twice because I don't want people to be like, well, then why don't you move somewhere? I have.
My personal FBI agent, if you're listening to this.
Right. I have moved somewhere else, but it brought about a greater conversation where people understood just because someone lives in Africa does not mean that they're automatically looking for a come up. They're not automatically looking for an opportunity to get their green card. Not once has anyone, even my ex-boyfriend who's Mexican, my mom had a conversation with him. And she said, well, I just wanted to, be clear. Are you using my daughter for a green card? And he said, well, she's not Canadian. Ooh. And I was like, get him. Now, first of all, I had to tell him, don't talk to my mama like that. But in my head, I'm like, get him, baby. He was like, she's not Canadian. God. If she were Canadian, then maybe. But she'll never be Canadian. And my mom was like, well, I mean, and I'm like, Mama, just stop. He shut you down. I told him don't talk to my mother like that, but in my head.
Oh God, that's so funny.
Right, but it opened up the door for greater conversations when it comes to citizenship and people feeling like, oh, they're just using people for citizenship. Now I'm not saying everyone. Some people are being used for citizenship, but it's also about consent. If you agree to live in this lifestyle and bringing someone back, that's on you. The second thing is for women. I love that women are they're inspired to go out and just live their best lives using common sense. I always have to say that because I don't want anyone to go outside and then be like, well, Karina, and then no. But it's so liberating to be able to go outside and live your best life and just enjoy. When I go to different countries, my name is not Karina, it is Christy. And at this point, some people might recognize me and they're like, Karina Worldwide. I'm like, no, I'm Christy, girl. Who is Karina Worldwide, child? She famous?
That's racist. I don't even look like her.
She famous? No. But for the amount of women who have told me I've inspired them to live life and not care about, because it's more than just men and dating, just not care about what people think and live their best lives. Like that is like a win for me. Because it took me a while to get there. Now it's like, okay, baby, you gonna see the next one in a while. But I had to. But then also, I had this conversation with a friend the other day, and he said the same thing. He's like, there is no difference. And after I thought about it, I'm like, maybe there isn't. And
we've got to be reflective. We've got to be reflective.
Right. And it gets to the point where we're so used to wanting to argue a point because we're like, I don't want to be the bad guy. I'm so different from them. And I'm like, for some people, it is the same thing. And if that's what you think, then that's perfectly fine. But I've never gone to a country with the intentions of, using my money to capitalize on people needing things or people viewing me as a come up ticket. I've never said, okay, well, I know that they know I'm American. And so if I, usually when I go there, I'm like, oh, I don't have any money actually. But it is all about perspective. For some people, no matter what I say, no matter how many times I say, it's not the same. People are going to say, girl, you was a passport sis. And I'm like, well, I don't think I'm a passport sis. Or, I think I am a woman who has learned how to utilize my resources to ensure that I have the best experiences possible. However, I do it responsibly because I never want anyone to feel offended. I never want, there to be a situation but
I will say one thing that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
If you had husbands in France or in the Netherlands or in England, I'm not sure that people would be so concerned about them using you for a ticket to the U.S.
But that's the sad thing. Because when I first started, before I even started doing the whole Kenyan husband or international husbands in Africa, I actually had a YouTube video and did snippets of it on Instagram. And this is before TikTok made its way to us, about my the best date I ever had. And I referred to him as my Italian husband several times. And there was never once he's trying to get citizenship. There was never once nothing. And that's why I think it bothered me so much in the beginning, because it was really because they're African, you assume that they want to come back with me to the States.
Right.
And
it's not so subtle. And with a lot of it's one of those situations where the call is coming from inside the house. Because the people saying these things could pass for tribesmen of the people they're talking about. Which is disappointing, but we digress.